So I think the best way for you to relate to me is for me to actually give you like a history lesson on my self-development journey and let you know how I got to this point and why I believe I'm someone that could actually give you a decent bit of advice. So let's start at like about age 10. I was a fat brown kid. If you've seen my older videos, you'll see the kind of guy I look like, who was being rejected by women or girls at that point, maybe 10, and also grew up in a household where my parents were like borderline divorced. So I had like a very rough upbringing, if you can put it that way. But I actually do believe that that was a very crucial part of my life, in the sense that it's provided me the fuel that I have today, to like constantly be pushing myself and start a YouTube channel like this. In all honesty, so that was like the early days, and fortunately, I was the kind of guy who like still got good grades and all of that, so I got that side of my life sorted. But I didn't have anything else going, so I would go home every day, drink like 2 liters of cola. I used to eat chips, and I used to weigh like 110 kilograms. So I used to play games the whole day and didn't really have much of a social life. I had like 2 friends. That was it. Then came high school, and I found like it was Alpha M. I made a video on him quite recently actually. So Alpha M and Jose Zuniga, both of them were like in the fashion mold and talking about how to like develop your style. So those were like the early days of my self-development and the initial phases of me trying to improve myself. But you'd agree, improving like your fashion and all of that is very surface level stuff that doesn't get you very far. Looks, max, and all of that is not really a big thing anymore, and it's for that very reason. So then I went into like the spiritual sort of path, if you can put it that way. So that was a YouTuber, I believe his name was Aaron Doughty. He was a guy that I watched a lot, and actually I think he was quite useful in the sense that through his teachings and all of that, even though it was like unrelated to school and grades and all of that, it actually improved my grades. So when I was initially like a student who was like, I was still getting A's, but I was getting like scraping by with the A's. Oddly enough, when I went onto the spiritual path, I then started getting like quite comfortable A's and was sort of on that side of things. But then, and oddly enough, I didn't fall into this at an earlier stage. I found myself falling into like a depressive cycle. The reason behind this I'm not quite sure, but if I had to guess, it was probably because like the lack of social life and generally not being very, how do I put it, satisfied and capable with the way things were going. So that's when then I started learning about the Red Bull. I believe this was at about ages like 16, 17 years old. And I do believe the advice that I got there was useful in the sense that it started point out to get girls, so that was great. But I do think there's also some flaws with that as well. I've been talking about it a lot in other videos, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. But the simple fact that I think it took away from the authenticity side of things. So then I was like getting these women that frankly I wasn't even that interested in, but was like filling this void of, okay, I'm dating someone now, great. But it was like short-term relationships that, generally speaking, was like a month, maybe 2 months. And I knew from the start, it wasn't the kind of woman I was going to like marry one day or anything like that. Like that sounds harsh. But I knew that at the start. And oddly enough, that got me into like a deeper depressive cycle. And it was around this time now that I also started my university life. So then I started studying actuarial science, and there was a degree I didn't quite enjoy either. So all of these things were now compounding, and it led me to quite a dark point where I wouldn't say I was suicidal, but I had suicidal thoughts. So like we have like a 2-story house, so like jumping off from that side of things and those sort of stuff. But that is, I have to say, where Hamza came in. That's why I quite honestly started watching. He seemed as like a light, like improve mental health and all of that. So I started watching him, and in all honesty, he is a big reason why I like stabilized my mental health and all of that. I started working out, I improved my mindset, and generally just had a better, more fulfilling life. But even with that, is like I was achieving all these like milestones now, but I wasn't quite feeling fulfilled. I was like, okay, what do these achievements actually mean at the end of the day? it's almost like my ambition levels were starting to drop a bit, which was quite an uncomfortable place for me to be in. Because naturally speaking, I was always this ambitious guy who had these big goals, big dreams. But it was starting to fade away from me. It was almost a scary feeling. So lately I've dived into like the religious side of things. And I do think that's renewed like the ambition side of things, but also it's given me like a broader vision to what I want to accomplish here. I've spoken about my mission in other videos, I'm not going to dive into it. If you're really curious, you can check out the video. But I do think it's got me to a point where it's made me more fulfilled. I've been seeing things as not just myself, but seeing things as beyond myself. So obviously you need to improve yourself to get the money, improve your status, do all of those things. But with that, there's only so much like you can help yourself with that. At a certain point, you're not going to see much more personal gains from it. So that's when you want to actually escalate it and take it beyond yourself. So whether that's initially just your family and like your woman, but then after that phase, look at the community as a whole. So it's quite a long-term vision that I'm getting you onto here at the end. But I do think it's going to give you like a nice ambition to work up to, but also something to like strive for every single day. But that's it. I'll see you in the next one. Just becoming a better man.